Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. We are now in the final episode on the truth about love. It's been
Wow.
a long journey, Lisa, and we are very, very grateful and thankful to all of you for
Yes.
listening through all of the episodes. We hope that you've enjoyed them. We hope that you've taken notes and benefited from them as well. We
Mm-hmm.
hope that we have helped you in your journey to reflect on this huge, huge thing called love. It is complicated, it is complex, but I hope we have given some bits of clarity, or at least we have given you an opportunity to think about love from an angle and a perspective that you've never looked from before. So, welcome once again, Lisa.
Yes, thank you so much. And we've also received some feedback, especially on social media, for
Mm.
those who have actually signed up on the masterclass program, The Truth About Love. Alhamdulillah, they mentioned that it's helping them so much, and it's giving them new perspective, new way of thinking.
Mm.
All thanks to Ustaz Mizi, because like sometimes there are a lot of things that we sort of kind of know, but I but maybe we need reminding of, or maybe we don't know it all. And then mashallah, bless him, Ustaz Mizi, like what he has properly done for us was to properly compartmentalize all of these, how do I say, approaches and thought processes for every possible kind of situation with regards to love, to
Mm.
help us in how we could manage and move forward.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Lisa, I couldn't have done it without you. So,
oh,
we
I'm
did this together. We did this together. Okay.
learning. I'm learning.
Yes, thank you so much for being a
Yes.
part of this once again. And
Thank you.
guys, we've talked about many things. We started out trying to define what love is. We
Yeah.
started looking at our influences, social media, the conventional media, our friends, our upbringing, and all of that. And then we
Mm-hmm.
spoke about love from an Islamic perspective, which was one of the interesting discussions we had. And then we
Yes.
spoke about at length, yeah, I think 2 episodes covering about self-love, something that I think Lisa wanted so much to go deep into. And I think hopefully we did some justice there, not just for Lisa, but for every one of you as well. Then we started talking about those who are searching for love. How do you figure out he's the one? Dating and all of these things. And then we started going into marriage. We talked about communication a lot. We talked about keeping the spark alive. We talk
Yes.
about those who suffer from
What
love.
happened? And
Yeah,
what happened if the spark
spark
seems to
disappears.
die?
Yes, and falling out of love and all of
Mm-hmm.
that, and believing in love again. And here we are, Lisa. Alhamdulillah, final episode, and a bit sad, but inshallah, there'll be more opportunities in the future. Today, we are going to talk about failing forward and thriving with love. Okay?
Before we go on, I need
Mm,
to understand, what do you mean by failing forward?
mm.
Ah,
Yeah. Okay. So, failing forward is a term that some people use to say that, to help us change the way we look at failure.
I
Because
see.
most people, when they think of failure, whether in school, whether at work, whether in their businesses and in their relationships, when they look at failure, they think, "Oh, I'm falling backwards." Right?
Mm,
I've taken one step forward because I failed. Now I've taken 2 steps backward. Now I personally have a different take on failure. I believe that failure is very important in life. I believe that
I agree.
all of the successes, Lisa, that I've gotten this far in my life is made up of all the many, many different types of failures that I've experienced. If not for the failures, I wouldn't be where I am today. And that's the honest truth. And I think that
Exactly.
and I think that God blesses us with failures. It's not
Mm.
it's not a curse, it is not a disadvantage. I think those who have failed know what it's like to taste the bitterness, know what it's like to cry, to be sad, to be cast aside, to be isolated, to be alone, to be rejected. And
Mm.
this could either destroy you or actually make you stronger. And I think if we reflect on our failures properly, deeply,
Mm.
with gratitude, I think failure will actually propel us forward. And therefore, the term failing forward.
Well said, well said. That's
Mm,
fantastic. Like it's so important how we look at failure, isn't it? Like
mm,
um like how you said about how with regards to failure, it's either it makes you or it breaks you.
yeah.
And if you're going to look at it as something that is on the negative side, which is like that's that, it's over,
Mm,
this is not for me, and there seem to be like that, there's no hope lah, macam tu,
yeah.
like there's
And they give up completely.
right.
And that's what we don't want people to do. And I think we made it clear in the last episode. And I think we want to emphasize even more in this episode that,
Mm,
failure is not supposed to end everything, you know. And don't be too hard on yourself. Once again, the failure may not be completely your fault. There are many other circumstances, many
right.
factors that contributed to the failure of your marriage, perhaps, or the failure of that engagement and that relationship. And you are not to take full
To
blame.
be blamed.
Yeah, don't
Right,
take full
right.
blame. It's
Yes.
good to have some accountability because then you think about, okay, how can I be better?
Mm-mm.
But you don't, hurt yourself. People say self sabotage yourself by saying that it's all my fault. Okay, so I want people to look at failure in relationships, in love, a bit differently. Because Lisa, I've met people who said that the moment they experience divorce, they can't even look at themselves in the mirror anymore.
Wow.
Even though it was coming, even though they expected it, even though they knew that some of them, Lisa, even it's in the court kan, lafaz in front of the hakim, in front of the judge, they know it's
Mm,
coming, right? And probably they've been waiting for a year for this thing to finalize.
mm.
But even when it finally happens, when they finally hear the words of the talak and the try, it breaks them into a million pieces.
Of course, because it's like if it sinks in, like
Mm.
you sort of kind of know, although it's kind of there, but when the experience meets you right in the face, and then you hear it, you're experiencing it presently, then you're like, it's something in me just didn't want it to happen. For example,
Mm.
something in me just wanted all of this to be a stupid nightmare.
Mm.
Like, and when it does happen, then it's like, then suddenly it's self-loathe. It's
Yes.
like suddenly they wonder if it was like oh, what if there was something that I could have done but I didn't do it, you know
Mm.
or for
And this,
example.
this
But
may take time, all this questioning, it will take time. It may stretch 6 months, a year. But I just hope that people will all heal properly,
and then
grieve properly.
again,
Mm.
yeah, it's how now we it's about encouraging our listeners out there about how we view things now,
Mhm.
you know even at the point where the hardship just hits you, um, uh, when the failing starts
Mhm.
happening at that moment of time. So macam mana kita nak handle benda ni, you know?
Yeah. But like we said earlier, I mean, nothing can really prepare you for that kind of moment. You can't,
Mm.
I don't know how to prepare for that because it's when you finally hear the words being said by the man that you married, the man you once loved. It's a different kind of feeling. You can't put that in words. You can't imagine that beforehand. You experience it in the moment, and I guess
Yeah.
that's what makes it tough. When you put all of those things together, it's really difficult.
I guess, like following up from your point, failing forward, it brought me back to the time when I had a failed relationship. And during that time, it was a very difficult time. Although, like you said, deep down inside, you kind of know, you kind of saw it coming. You've done all that you could, you know.
Mm.
Um, and although it was something in me somewhat told me that this is the best thing for you. This is a good decision. This is what's best for both you and that person.
Mm.
Um, one of the things that I was struggling with was dealing with it. Okay, so maybe first and foremost, maybe what we can start off our conversation with is about us acknowledging time.
Yes.
But maybe you can advise us about how well or how much of time do we acknowledge. So time is for us to acknowledge, because the reality of us going through hardship or going through any calamities in life, it ends with us redo. It ends with us accepting
Yeah.
that this was what was written for us, so but then you go through that whole processes of how do I say, digesting what we're going through, or rather we're digesting the calamity, so to speak.
Yes.
So maybe you can, what is your take about how much of time do we acknowledge, like in order for us to be able to move forward?
That's a really good question, Lisa. For me, I always have trouble answering this because I feel like every couple and every individual will require a different duration
Okay.
to reflect and to grieve the loss and then to heal and recover. You know, everybody needs a different timing. Why? Because I think the depth of our relationships differ. You could be with a person for 10 years and your relationship wasn't really that deep. You spoke about the usual stuff, you got used to each other's routines, and that was about it. But you could be with someone for a year and a half, but the feelings could be really, really strong. You went deep with the core of your emotions, how you really felt. Every moment spent is a memory that is etched in your mind forever. You know, you went through difficulties and hardships together. You were there for each other. Those things actually would then require a person, even though the relationship may have not lasted that long, but
Okay.
the healing process may take longer.
I think maybe what I did not do, which was a mistake, the reason why it was difficult. And then, like, every time I speak to you, although you may not say it word for word, you remind me about a lot of things, like in the discussions that we have. You always emphasize niat, and you're like thinking niat, like, like in like, I'm sorry, what I mean is, maybe if the followers are wondering, like, niat, like, well, what do you mean? Like, every time we're hit with a calamity, we don't want to be in this place, we want to get out. But sometimes we have this tendency of being, how do I say, like, for some weird reason, we tend to stay around and we linger around this how do I say, this difficult phase that we're in, like we're feeding on it,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, it's also how we view the failure, right, in the relationship or the marriage. We linger around it for a while because we think, like it's something that we are to do. Otherwise, if I move on so quickly, nanti orang kata apa pula,
Yeah.
for example, like, so.
Now, if we pause there for a moment, what I spot is really the problem with a lot of people, not just you, Elisa, is really about we're still very much concerned about what other people think and say. Still,
Yes.
it's in our subconscious mind. We can't, pretend it's not there. Everything we want to do, whether we want to end a relationship, whether we want to show people that we've moved on, every act and every announcement and every sharing, that we do, every person we talk to, we're always concerned about what will people say.
Yeah. Even if whether or not we move on quickly or not, one is about what would people say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think for our
But
own sake,
sorry, but before you add on, I think it's not completely wrong to think about that. Okay?
okay.
And here's why. Because if you look at the Islamic rulings, when a wife loses a husband by death, right? The husband passes
Yes.
away.
Yes.
There's this thing where the woman is required to mourn the death
Mm.
of the husband,
Yeah.
and it's for a certain period, like 4 months and 10 days. Why is that? One of the hikmah behind it is to not show that she is, to the people, that she is overly fine with it, like she's completely
Yeah.
okay. My husband is, he's away already. I'm done. I'm moving
Mm.
on. To
Right.
show some kind of grief is normal.
Mm-mm.
It's normal
Mm-mm.
to actually show that. So that's why I wanted to say that actually, as much as I don't want people to be overly concerned about what other people think or say, but
Right.
there is a reason why I guess we all think about that, anyways. Mm.
Mm. Mm. Interesting. 4 months and 10 days, huh?
Mm. Yeah.
Okay,
So sorry.
I'm gonna put a little note there.
So yeah, when you said that, about time that you can, which is very interesting. I think that all of our failures combined, from maybe 10 years ago, or from when past relationships, everything that has taught us love in one way or another, whether we like the lessons or not, to me, are failures that help to develop our maturity over time.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think we all get better at this
Mm-mm.
if we
Yes.
if we look back to learn.
Mm-mm.
Okay, and when we learn, we become more matured. We become wiser. To
Yeah.
me, that should be the ultimate goal. If you have gone through, many years of being married, or many years of being in, multiple relationships that didn't work out, perhaps, regardless, I think whatever your path has been, your journey, however it's looked like up till this
Mm.
point, I hope that you have actually gotten smarter, gotten better, gotten wiser as a result
Mm.
of the accumulated relationships, or moments, years, that you've experienced love with. So
Mm.
I think that, will also help us avoid making the errors that we've made in the past. The
Mm.
errors, the mistakes, maybe in the first relationship, was
Mm.
amateurish because it's our first time. We don't know what it is. We've never been in a relationship
Right.
before. Like I've interviewed couples before, Lisa, in front of me, and like the girl might say, "Oh, Ustaz, yeah, I know what I want in this relationship, Ustaz." How do you know? Because I had two failed relationships before this, but this guy is different, and I know, and I've communicated with him, and he totally gets it. And then I asked the guy,
Right.
"So how about you? Have you had any past relationships?" No, Ustaz, this is my first time. My first time. I've
Mm.
never been in a relationship before. And then I look
Mm.
back at the girl. I say, so I want you to understand this is the first time. You need to give him the opportunity, the space, and the
Right.
time to learn, because
Right.
you have some experience. You know what you like, you don't like, what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to avoid. He's still
Mm.
learning. It's his first time, so give him a
Yes.
break, okay? So be easy on him. That's what I'm saying, and guide him.
Mm.
Okay, because you cannot assume that he knows everything. Regardless, even though he's 30 and this is his first relationship, don't just assume that he knows.
Yeah.
So I think maturity helps that. If you're in a relationship with somebody who is new, who does not have experience like you do, I think it is your job to kind of help, to kind of show them what to expect in the future. I think, Lisa, you've shared before, Yusri, said some things before you guys got married that like were
Right.
to you mind blowing, because like, I never thought of that. But he's gone through something before, and he
Exactly.
knows what you might encounter in the future. So I think that's exactly what I'm trying to say, basically. Yeah.
Yes. And like, when you speak about allowing for yourself to, like, you for allowing for yourself to acknowledge your past mistakes in developing
Mm,
the maturity, it means that it is okay to reflect back on, what are the things that may have caused for things to have gone wrong, be it
mm,
from yourself or from the partner, and then that slowly formulates and a better understanding of what you want to avoid and what you're okay with, like that's I yeah. And what I also wanted to say about Niat, following up from that point, was also the fact that, like, I think you kind of have to set it in your mind and your heart as well, that you intend to recover, that you intend to heal. Like,
Mm.
you know, because like, um, you know, like, or as I was mentioning, you know, that there's a tendency that, you know, when you're in that situation,
Yeah.
only the people from the outside looking in would understand. And you're saying that, yep, you know, they're kind of, it's, you know, they're in that phase right now, you know. But for yourself, you're going to have to intend that, you know, like, yeah, I'm acknowledging that this is what I'm going through, but I have to intend to want to heal and recover, you know. So this phase that I'm going through, that seems to be like a lingering phase, is allowing for yourself to, like Ustaz says, to allow for past mistakes to develop the maturity, and this is going to help you in moving forward as well, because you want
Mm.
to, you're now more aware
Yes.
about the errors that you want to avoid.
Yes. Very well said. And on that note about the errors that you want to avoid, to me, this is also about then you knowing what you don't want. Correct, in your
Right.
next relationship, because
Yeah.
we're imagining a scenario where our listeners or viewers have been in a relationship that has caused them some pain in the past, and
Right.
now they're trying to revive back the feelings of love in themselves
Yeah.
first before in anyone else.
Being able
um
to give.
yes. And I think when you know what you don't want, it becomes easier for you to then communicate upfront to your future partner that
Yeah. Yeah.
in one of the previous episodes you spoke about knowing what you don't want before you got into your first relationship, but this one is different. This one, you are at a different level of maturity when it comes to
Yes.
relationships and love,
Yes.
because
Because
you
there may be instances where you're not aware of what you don't want.
yeah.
Like you may not be sure until you actually go through it. Then you go like, whoa, wait a minute. Like this is something that I learn now that
Mm.
I don't like. And since now I know, there's a hikmah there.
Yeah. When previously I thought this was something I could deal with. Kan?
Right.
Like in the first relationship or the first marriage, you thought, oh, this is something I'm okay with. And then suddenly, when it ended, you realize, oh no, 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 this is something I need to tell my future partner that, my threshold, ends here, and then anything beyond that is it's a bit too much.
I could relate to this really, really well because,
Mm.
like, after the first relationship, I was very sure that, like, over jealous, an over jealous attribute from the partner is something that I could not deal with.
Mm.
Um, like it was something that I was willing to go through first because I thought, like, like you said, I did not know any better that this was something that I just couldn't deal with
Mm.
actually. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was something that I was forcing myself to to go through with the arguments and the explaining, the clarifying when I didn't have to, and all
Yeah.
that, right? Comes the next relationship, when it happened again, the red flag was raised, and then I was like, oh wait, no, 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 no. This is like, it's almost like, me going down the same road again, and like, this is me trying to avoid the similar error.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Very true.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe on this note, I would like to talk about then boundaries, lah. Right, boundaries. I think
Okay.
you brought up this example, and I think it's really good to also talk about this. To communicate boundaries, and boundaries could mean anything. It could be like, you say, I'm okay with your mother, but I'm okay with meeting her once a week, weekends,
Okay.
but I'm not okay with moving in with her or she moving in with us. That's an example. But you don't, you need to you need to say this clearly, and you need to say this
Mm.
respectfully. You need to say this
Yeah.
nicely, because you might offend or you might hurt your partner if you do it
Yeah.
wrongly. But it's not fair to only say it much, much, much later after your partner has committed with you, and then you say, "Oh, actually, and I'm not okay with this." Huh?
Right.
Because everybody will just assume that everybody's okay with everything. This is what I notice in many relationships, and why a lot of
Yeah.
arguments happen, because you just assume. You assume that
Yeah.
my wife will okay punya lah. Why? Because she loves me. What? My husband will okay punya. Why? Because he cares about me. What? But actually, it's only when you really bring up the really sensitive stuff that's when you
Mm.
realize, oh, I thought he would be okay with it. I thought she would be
Yeah.
all right with it. But then you realize a lot of
Yeah.
things. So that's why I think we need to communicate boundaries. Boundaries like, I'm okay with your friends coming over, but not every week, please. I'm so tired because I need to clean the house. I also don't socialize a lot, Maybe can we cut it to once a month? They can come over and then we can, hang out, we can have dinner, we can watch a movie, but not
Oh
every.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's some things like that. Communicate those kind of boundaries. It helps a lot. And again, this comes from maturity, Lisa, like we said earlier. Like you've learned it before, or you know yourself better, or you've
Right.
experienced it in the previous relationship and it didn't work. So now you
Mm-mm.
can bring it up to your partner.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think the note that I wanted to highlight, or rather enunciate, was when you mentioned about, but don't wait till later to
Mm,
communicate the things that may that to to share what your boundaries are, what you're okay with, what you're not okay with.
mm,
It's really important because if if it's communicated later, you've allowed it to bottle up so much, and then the way it's communicated may not be very it not be very good lah,
mm.
because later baru nak cakap, and then after that, like the it's almost like you're not really being really fair to the
Yeah,
person hearing you out, because the person's like thinking, why didn't you say anything from the very beginning about this? Like,
yeah.
you could have, because like I honestly thought you were okay.
Because it's such a big issue. Normally, it's in the big stuff, So, like I said earlier, about your close friends, about parents, about in-laws, about house, about all of this big stuff, I think you need to be clear as early as you can. Okay, so I hope that all of the failures that you had in the past are actually lessons that you can bring forward.
Yeah.
And therefore, failing forward, you bring it forward so that you
Right.
you avoid, and then you educate your partner,
Mm-mm.
and then hopefully that will lead you to thriving in this relationship. Okay,
Masya
and
Allah.
and that brings us nicely to our last point in this entire program, which is about thriving with love. So love should make us feel more alive, Lisa. I think that's my take on it. When you are in in love,
Yeah.
when you are in love, and those listening in, if you are in love, you know what I'm talking about, right? When you are in love, every song you listen to, every movie you watch, every drama series you follow, every sign everything brings you back to that one particular person,
Yeah.
that memory, that smell, that voice, that everything. It brings you um, great joy, but it also adds more life into your life, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't make you feel down and depleted. It shouldn't make you feel tired. It shouldn't make you feel
Demotivated.
yeah, like you want to quit, like you don't want to do anything else because you're so down all of the time. You know, to me, love should bring us more joy because that is the power of love, the essence of it. Yeah. When individuals feel most alive in relationships when they feel loved and they feel cared for. That's another element. Relationships thrive when a wife feels that the husband cares for her, and a
And vice
husband, and
versa.
vice versa.
Mm.
For husbands, there's this thing called the man flu. Have you heard of it before? The
No.
You don't know what is the man flu? The man flu is when the husband is sick, and it's just a normal fever or sore throat or whatever,
Oh,
and then he
okay. I
feels
know what
like
it
he's
means
half
now.
dead. That was fast. And then
I
he's
know
like
what
half
it
dead
means.
already. My wife always says I'm like that, so I know what the man flu is. So, tapi kalau macam she's sick, it's like she can still do many other stuff around the house. Tapi kalau I sakit sekali-sekali, macam I cannot do anything,
Like,
macam itu.
I tengah ni lah, I tengah tu lah. I know a lot of people joke about it,
Mm.
like because it's common enough
Yeah.
that most women or most wives are going, mm-hmm,
Mm.
so it's so common. But I kind of have to say though that there's something endearing about that,
Mm.
because there's also that whole natural tendency of women loving the idea to be needed,
Mm.
so
And
so
the
when the
husband also
husband
has needs to want to be cared for. We want to be cared for too. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we always
But
have to
then
be, we always
when
have to
you
be
need
this.
me to care for you,
Yeah.
that is also like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Because, for most men, we always have to be the strong one. We have to show like we're okay with everything. We can deal with any problem. So I guess once in a while when we fall sick, we want to feel vulnerable and we want to feel like someone else can care for us, like a baby. That's what most wives say. Like I'm taking care of another baby.
Right.
Um, and so it's really funny, but at the same time, I've seen it happen to me, so many times. So
Yeah.
I guess, so going back to the point of wanting to feel cared for is very important. I
Yeah.
did,
Yeah.
I counseled a lady recently and she was like, Ustaz, the reason I'm contemplating leaving this marriage is because when I was at my lowest, when I was down and depressed, when I was crying and for entire day, my husband didn't care. He didn't do anything. He didn't help. He didn't ask. He didn't check on me. To me,
Mm.
that was the last straw, she said. Of
Really?
course, this happened
Oh,
multiple times. So
right,
if
right.
you imagine, like you're a woman and you're so down and depressed and your husband like doesn't do anything at all,
Or rather,
doesn't
dia macam tak acknowledge pun, like
acknowledge one. and
oblivious.
and that's when a woman stops feeling love because she doesn't feel like she's being cared for. So
Yeah.
that's why I feel like in order for love to thrive in your relationship, you guys need to care for each other a lot. Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes like we don't realize how little things makes it how little things goes a long way.
Mm.
Like with, for example, like for my husband who works long hours every time, like when he's on set, for example, like I'm sure you understand this, Ustaz. Like when you go out for your forums, you go from one location to the other and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and you're away from home for so many hours, right? But what if say one day suddenly it's just like it's sekejap je sebenarnya you pergi kerja. It's just like a couple hours and then you can be back and be
Mm.
with the wife and the kids. And you've been working so hard. Of course, like on that one day that you can go back early, of course you feel like, bestnya I can finally come back early. But then on the day you come back, then what if, like you said, the wife and kids macam, oh, tak ada benda pun, you balik awal pun tak ada bila, for example. That wouldn't that break your heart, right?
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
macam
I'm
when you,
still lucky that the kids are small, so when I come back home, they still run to me, run to the door. So that's good enough.
yeah, absolutely. Like it doesn't that make you feel so like, oh my god, it feels
Yeah,
so
you
good to
feel
be
loved. You feel wanted. You
yeah,
feel needed. I think that's important in every relationship. The wife needs to
right,
feel that. The husband needs to feel that.
right,
And if
right.
you don't feel it, you need to let them know that you're not feeling it. It's okay to tell your partner this. Rather than
Yeah,
just one day saying, you know what, for the last 6 months I've not felt loved. Not fair lah. I think you should tell within a month. You should be
right,
able to tell it already. Yeah. Don't wait until it
right.
gets really bad before you open up.
Yeah, yeah. It takes you to places that you don't want to go when you allow for things to sort of like ride and then like accumulate. You want to communicate this better. Like when yesterday it was just a little tiny thing, like when Yusri told me that he was gonna come back early for a change. He was like, oh, I'm wrapped. That's what they say, right, in
Mm.
production. Like, oh, I dah wrap dah. And he was like, I dah wrap dah. And I was like, oh my God, that's music to my ears. Like, I can't wait for you to be home.
Mm.
So and then so he comes back and he was really happy because like knowing fully well that we were expecting him to come home and that kind
Mm.
of stuff. It's little things can go a long way, inshallah.
Yep.
Hopefully that would be something that we remind ourselves every now and then, that as much as how caught up we are with life, with the things, with our responsibilities, with the things that we have to do, sometimes like when we can sort of check in, improve on our love language towards our partner,
Mm-hmm.
inshallah, that will let us continuously thrive in love, inshallah.
Yes. All right. That's awesome. Lisa, before we end, I think I want you to maybe say a few words lah. Macam your last takeaways for everyone. Like what do you want to let everyone know when it comes to love? And I'll give you some time to think about it because we didn't plan this. It's a surprise for Lisa, so I want you to think about it. So I'm gonna say my part first, okay?
Okay.
Okay, guys. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Here's the thing, okay? My experience is not just my own relationship, but also the many, 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 many relationships that I've either been a part of as a pre-marriage trainer or a pre-marriage counselor or a post-marriage counselor. And these are the numbers are huge, and this has been something that I've been doing for more than a decade. So I've seen patterns for sure. I've seen, marriages that work and marriages that don't work, engagements that lead to marriage and engagements that get called off. I've seen people grieving the loss of their loved ones for more than a year, for more than 2 years. And I've seen people who are able to get back into the scene and allow themselves to love again and to be loved. So I've seen a bit of everything, alhamdulillah. It has given me a perspective that I think I've never thought I would get in life. It is not a curse. I think it is a blessing to know and to have learned. And so I want to share with you a couple of things. And I feel like it's not just top of my head also, at the top of my head. I feel in every relationship, guys, there must be mutual respect. To me, that's very important. You must respect each other. You must respect each other's time. You must respect each other's space and boundaries. You must respect each other enough to seek their opinion about something and not just make a rash decision without consulting your partner. You must respect them enough in the manner in which you communicate with them, the tone of your voice, the choice of your words. You must respect them in front of others, even if they are the closest family members and the closest friends. Respect is often underestimated in relationships. Sometimes you get too comfortable with each other, you start disrespecting them, either at home or in front of others. And that sometimes is the beginning of a relationship going down south. So always be careful of that, okay? The second thing is, I believe that every relationship, everyone in a relationship needs to learn patience. Okay, sabr, patience. Your partner is never going to be perfect all of the time. They're not. They're human. So you need to understand that this is something that is required of you and not just your partner. You need to learn to be patient with them, just as how you expect them to be patient with you. When sometimes you make an error, you make a bad judgment call, you raise your voice, you disrespect them in any way or form. You are tired and you didn't care for them enough because you were yourself tired. I mean, things like this will happen, and you need to be patient. If you notice yourself getting easily agitated as of late, you need to start talking to your partner about this, saying that you are aware. Okay, and then ask them to help you. Ask them to highlight to you whenever they think they know the triggers for your anger. Learn to be patient by attending programs, seminars, workshops, reading a book about patience, anything at all that might help. Learn about the character of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who was extremely patient. Patience is the second thing I feel that every person needs if you want to be in a relationship with anyone. Okay? And last but not least is compassion and forgiveness. I put these two things together because they both come from rahmah. Rahmah is mercy. With mercy, then you can be compassionate with your partner. You can show affection with your partner. And with mercy too is when you are able to forgive your partner for all of their shortcomings. And forgiveness is bigger, is greater, because your partner may actually do something bad intentionally. But if they only did it once and they are fully regretful and they are remorseful, then if there is room and space in your heart to forgive, then you are indeed an amazing person to be able to do that. You know? So think about that. Think about all of these things that I've just shared, and I hope you'll remember them in your relationship right now or in your future relationships, inshallah. Okay? So that's my final sharing for about love. Now I'm gonna pass it over to Lisa. Lisa?
Okay, well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you, Ustaz. Like, thank you so much for having me on board with this. Like, you know, this was it was very learning for me, truly insightful. I mean, like, I'm someone who I fall in the demographic where I'm married. I've been married for like a number of years now, you know. And having said that, although we spoke about, you know, you compartmentalize, or rather provided a blueprint from the very beginning, like how do we begin, and like, you know, self-love, and how is it before in finding love, etc., etc., etc. Although I feel that I'm at a different place right now, I felt that it allowed for me to reflect a lot. And this comes to my this follows nicely into my takeaways from this whole episode, like how even in the topic of love, I feel that you have kind of drummed in the importance of intention, the importance of Nia. The older I grow, the more I'm mature, hopefully, the more I'm seeing the importance of it from, you know, the conversations that I have with you, how a lot of things stems from that, having the right intention. It's so important. With that, then, you know, like when you go on to that next level of understanding, you become more self-aware. Self-aware has a lot of linkage to self-love as well, because you are respecting yourself and understanding what you want and what you don't want, and you know, what you're able to live with and what you can, you know, what you feel are your off limits. And then furthermore, is, you know, it's a kind of sub thing with your point with compassion. It's empathy.
Yeah.
You know, like when you consider wanting to be able to communicate and understanding your partner a lot more. I understand that all of these subtopics that we've mentioned, all these terminologies that we mentioned, you know, like they don't necessarily come easy. Sometimes, you know, there are hurdles along the way. But then again, that wraps up nicely with how we spoke about that at the end of the day, it's also how we view things, how we perceive things, how we are digesting things. And, you know, like the title of the topic today alone, for example, is Failing Forward, which was very, very new to me. And I really like it, to be honest, because I always believe, you know, I agree with you about how we have to view failure as something that we need in life and not be afraid of it. Like, you know, like growing up, maybe you hear like, what, you failed? And it has that sort of negative connotation to it. But really, sometimes, more often than not, you learn more from your failures than your successes.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's, I wanted to say that, wait, I had a point there. Okay, let me, on top of my head too. Ustaz.
Failure. You said about failure.
Yeah, it wraps up nicely about being able to, because you know how people say, whatever it is that the mind conceives, the body can achieve.
Yep.
This is for both ways. If you conceive it in a way where it lets you go down a downward spiral, therefore it is so. But then if you conceive it in a manner where you achieve, you grow, you excel, whether or not, you know, whether or not obviously or not, or internally, at the end of the day, it's how we view things as well, you know. So this is really helpful for me, you know, and I really hope that it has been truly helpful for all of our listeners out there, you know. Mashallah, like, because everything that you've shared with me is truly well guided also by the core principles of Islam.
Mm.
And the more so how I see how Islam is so loving. Islam is beautiful. Islam is so indah. And we're so blessed, mashallah, that we have that as our guide to help us move forward.
Yes. Alhamdulillah. I think that's a great way to wrap it up, gratitude, basically, right? Guys, I hope you have enjoyed the session as mentioned earlier. We have enjoyed doing this together for 15 episodes. And I'm thankful to Lisa for agreeing to do this with me. I've enjoyed her sharing her stories, her perspective, her reflections. I think Lisa shared a lot here that maybe she has not shared anywhere else, so I'm thankful. And I hope you guys appreciate her for that, for her honesty. I think this is as raw as it gets in terms of our conversations, but inshallah, maybe there may be future opportunities. I'm looking forward to doing events again. Actually, I miss doing events. So hopefully when everything subsides, entah 2022 and baru subside, but inshallah, everything is better, then we can do
maybe smaller scale first, and
smaller scale.
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see.
So once again, thank you, and I apologize for any shortcomings from
Same.
both of us. Yes, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, for watching, for supporting this program. May Allah bless you with all of the love that He can give you in this dunya and akhirah. Ameen, ya Rabbal Alameen. Take care, everybody.
Barakallahu feekum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bye-bye.